They didn't even look me in the eye when they let me go. "You've gotten too comfortable, Raymond," the new VP said, tapping a spreadsheet. "We need agility. We need fresh energy. This isn't personal. It's business." My name is Raymond Cole. I'm 57 years old. For 2 decades, I was the senior systems architect at Argonne Prime Facilities, a logistics infrastructure firm in Portland. And for most of those years, I was the system. I designed it, grew it, adapted it to handle tenfold its original volume. When it broke, I fixed it. When it threatened to collapse under pressure, I recoded it in 2 days flat. I sat across from Leona Travers, the new VP of Operations, who joined just 4 months ago with her polished pitch decks and buzzwords like streamlining and cloud-based scalability. Her resume glowed: Stanford MBA, 5 years at a fintech firm in Seattle. But she had no clue what actually made our systems run. Next to her sat Ken, someone from HR I barely knew. He slid a folder toward me like he was passing a napkin. "We're offering a 6-week severance and any remaining PTO." He said it like he was doing me a favor. "Is that it?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Leona crossed her arms. "I know this is sudden, but we need to transition quickly. We've onboarded a new tech team who'll take over your architecture. Of course, we'd appreciate your help during the handoff." I just nodded, not because I was okay, but because I knew better than to fight it. They didn't understand what they'd done, and I didn't feel like explaining. They thought they were upgrading. What they were actually doing was severing the only thread keeping their foundation intact. By 3 p.m., I had packed 21 years of loyalty into a single box. My coffee mug, some thumb drives, a few signed printouts of architecture diagrams. People avoided my eyes in the hall. Some nodded stiffly. Others just pretended not to see me. On the drive home, the silence in the car was louder than I expected. No radio, no phone, just the wind against the windows. At home, my wife Mira met me at the door. "It's done," I said, setting the box down by the couch. She didn't speak. She just hugged me, tight. That night, I poured myself a neat whiskey and stood on the back porch, watching the fog roll in off the Willamette River. 21 years, just gone. What Leona and Ken didn't know was that the architecture I built for Argonne Prime wasn't just code. It was a living thing, interlinked, updated over years with patches and redundancies known only to me. I was the manual they never paid for, and the engineers they were bringing in, they were going to need more than fresh diplomas and Google Tabs to navigate it. When I joined Argonne back in 2002, they had 5 contracts and a barely functioning warehouse in Eugene. The whole logistics system ran on Excel sheets and fax orders. I rebuilt it from the ground up. Automated deliveries, synchronized inventories across 5 states, designed AI-based scheduling before most companies even knew what that was. But things changed. Ownership flipped hands. Private investors came in, and the old CEO, Marty Caldwell, retired. The new board wanted results, fast, and that's when they hired Leona. I should have seen it coming. A month before my exit, I proposed a team to begin formally documenting the back-end processes. It was long overdue. I even volunteered to train them myself. The proposal didn't even make it past the first meeting. "Too much overhead," they said. "Not urgent." Instead, they started hiring fresh faces. 3 new junior developers. Quiet, polite, always asking questions that were too basic. They were shadowing me, supposedly learning the system. But I knew what was happening. They were being groomed to replace me. Still, I answered their questions. I tried not to resent them. It wasn't their fault. But they didn't understand the deeper layers, the legacy patches I wrote on sleepless nights, the exceptions coded around vendor-specific quirks, the encryption logic that ran invisible to even the admins. I wasn't just the architect. I was the failsafe, and no one else knew where the real bones were buried. 2 weeks after I was let go, I was sitting on my porch watching geese move across the river. When my phone rang, it was Leona. I let it ring. Then came a voicemail. Raymond, we're having some issues with the real-time inventory module. The new team is doing their best, but they're running into bugs we can't trace. Would you be open to a short consulting call? I didn't reply. Later that evening, a second voicemail. Our client dashboard is crashing. We have a major shipment with Brookmore Logistics tomorrow. We really need your guidance. Please consider consulting just an hour of your time. Still, I said nothing. The next morning, Mira handed me the phone. It rang 5 times last night, she said softly. Same number. I shrugged. Let them figure it out. But I'll admit it, I was listening, and part of me wasn't surprised. They had no idea how deep the systems went, or how fragile it all really was when you stripped away the years of nuance. By the end of the week, they'd called 14 times. I counted. Then came a message from Tom Reyes, my old protege, now head of data ops at a mid-tier competitor. Ray, heard what happened. Want to grab coffee this week? We might have something for you. And just like that, the page began to turn. What Argon Prime didn't understand was that when you cut the roots, the tree might not fall immediately. But give it time. The leaves will wither, the system will crack, and the entire thing will collapse under its own arrogance. I didn't have to do anything. They'd made the decision, and I'd simply stepped out of the way. The calls didn't stop. In fact, they got worse. By the end of the second week, Argon Prime's entire logistics dashboard had gone dark. Their automated routing system failed during a multi-state shipment cycle. Warehouses that used to run like clockwork were now dispatching trucks late, or not at all. And while they scrambled to fix things, I was sitting in a sunlit cafe downtown with Tom Reyes. Tom had worked under me years ago. He was a junior developer when we met, fresh out of Oregon State, all fire and caffeine. But he'd grown fast, moved on, and now he was the director of operations at Apex Grid Solutions, a rising player in the smart logistics sector. He set down his coffee. Ray, I've been following Argon's collapse like it's a live show. I can't lie, it's brutal. I gave a slight nod. They made their choice. He smiled. That's why I'm here. We've got expansion plans, big ones. We're building our own logistics backbone, and I need someone who's done it before. From the ground up, thought of you immediately. It felt like air rushing back into my lungs, not because I wanted revenge, but because someone still saw the value in doing things right. Tom slid a proposal across the table. Chief Systems Officer, full autonomy, aggressive salary, plus equity. He wasn't joking around. Take your time, he said. But just so you know, we're hiring fast, and I want you leading the blueprint. I didn't need time. I accepted the next morning. Meanwhile, Argon Prime was falling apart in silence. Mira would read the local business headlines out loud while we had breakfast. Argon delays shipment to multi-state retailer. System outage at Argon Prime sparks client frustration. But it wasn't until the third week that they finally cracked. Ken from HR called again, then emailed, then finally showed up at my house. I was pruning the hedges when he pulled into the driveway in a company car I recognized. Raymond, he said nervously, Leona sent me. She didn't want to come herself. It's not going well. I raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Well, we'd like to offer you a temporary consulting arrangement, high compensation, flexible terms, just to get us over this current hump. I let the silence stretch. And how high is high? He fumbled with a folder. $400 an hour, minimum of 5 hours a week. I shook my head. Not enough. He hesitated. Then name your price. It's not about money, I said. It never was. That night, I found myself walking the river trail near our house. It used to be where I came to clear my head during big projects. Now I just needed space to let it all settle. I wasn't angry. I wasn't smug. I was just watching gravity do its thing. At Apex, things moved fast. Tom gave me 2 lead engineers and an open sandbox. I began sketching the kind of system I'd always wanted to build, Modular, intuitive, future-proofed. Not patched together, not designed to impress investors, but to last. And this time, we were documenting everything. 3 weeks into the build, I got a call from someone I hadn't expected. Justin Burnell, Argonne Prime's former CEO, and the man who hired me 2 decades ago. He sounded tired. "Raymond, I heard what happened. I'm sorry." "I appreciate the call," I said. "I stepped down a year ago. They brought in people who looked great on paper. Clearly, they didn't understand the heart of the company." We talked for a while. He asked what I was building next. I told him, without details. He said he wasn't surprised I'd landed on my feet. "Ray," he added before hanging up, "sometimes you've got to leave the fire before they realize who was holding the extinguisher." A week later, Apex got a call from one of Argonne's oldest clients. They were looking for alternatives. By then, word had spread. Argonne's internal systems weren't just shaky, they were unusable. The new team had accidentally overwritten key security protocols. Their data recovery process, already fragile, was corrupted when a junior engineer skipped the nightly backup procedure. It was catastrophic. Then came the breaking point. An entire shipment database, 3 months' worth of inventory data, gone, corrupted beyond repair. And just like that, the whisper turned into a wave. Clients started calling. Apex's phones didn't stop ringing for 2 days straight. Mira watched me from across the living room one night as I finished reviewing the new proposals. "You're not smiling," she said softly. "I'm not angry either," I replied. "It's strange. I thought I'd feel something." She nodded. "Maybe this is what peace looks like." That same week, Leona finally called. Her voice was raw, no polish this time. "Raymond, please, I know you're busy, but we need help. I'll triple the original offer. Name your conditions." I considered it for a moment. Then I asked the one question I'd been holding back. "Why now?" Silence. Then, "Because nothing's working. And everything you said about system fragility, we didn't take it seriously." "I didn't take you seriously." I breathed in slowly. "Well, I'm working somewhere that does." And I hung up. That wasn't revenge. That was closure. By the end of month 2, it wasn't just whispers anymore. Argonne Prime was unraveling in real time. Their top-tier clients began jumping ship. Quietly at first, then all at once. Apex secured a deal with Lendrix Freight, followed by Burton Tech and Newton Imports. Each of them had the same complaint. "We can't trust a system that doesn't work." Behind every failed shipment, every data error, every crash was code they didn't understand and didn't want to admit they'd mishandled. And at the center of Apex success, the system I was building from scratch, modular, bulletproof, and finally done right. We held internal training every Friday, documentation sprints every Monday. No corners were cut. Every engineer knew every component they touched. No one could ever be left in the dark again. And clients felt it. They saw the difference. One afternoon, Tom pulled me into his office, grinning like a kid. "Guess who called?" I shrugged. "Westmont Holdings, Argonne's biggest client. They want a meeting." Their logistics director said, and I quote, "We want whoever designed your backend." I blinked. "That's half their annual revenue." Tom nodded. "They want us to take it all." Meanwhile, Argonne was in full panic mode. Alan from my old engineering team, one of the few who hadn't jumped ship, texted me updates every few days. "You won't believe this," he wrote one Friday night. "They tried to roll back the original system build using a month-old clone. It corrupted the finance module. Now no one can access billing records from Q2 2 hours later. CTO is gone. Fired on the spot." The next day, he sent a screenshot of an internal memo. "Leadership transition, company restructure, temporary outage protocols in place." The cracks were now gaping holes. That's when the final twist came. Not from Argonne, from Apex. Tom called me into the conference room early Monday. He wasn't alone. Sitting next to him, in a crisp navy suit was a man I recognized immediately. Elliot Marston, managing partner at Harper Lang Investments, the private equity group that owned Argon Prime. I sat down cautiously. Elliot spoke first. "Mr. Cole, we're looking to sell Argon. The system collapse, client exodus, bad PR, it's all snowballing. We've had two potential buyers walk away, but now Apex has entered the picture." I raised an eyebrow. Tom spoke up. "We're in talks to acquire Argon at a reduced valuation, less than 40% of what it was worth 6 months ago. We'd absorb their clients, their warehouses, their logistics teams, what's left of them." Elliot leaned in. "But here's the thing. We can't close this unless someone who knows both systems oversees the transition. Someone with credibility. Someone clients trust." I waited. I knew what was coming. Tom continued, "If we move forward, I want you as our chief integration officer. You'll lead the merger, migrate what's salvageable, and build everything else on your architecture." I looked at Elliot. "So you want me to clean up the mess you made after firing me?" He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "We miscalculated." I exhaled slowly. "All right, but I have one condition." Tom nodded. "Name it." "No shortcuts. No suits telling me to cut corners for cost savings. We do it right, fully documented, fully transparent, and fully staffed. Or I walk." "Done," Tom said without hesitation. Elliot remained quiet. That night I told Mira everything. We sat by the fire, 2 cups of tea between us. "You're sure you want to walk back into that place?" she asked. "I'm not walking back into it," I said. "I'm walking over it." 3 weeks later, the acquisition closed. Apex absorbed Argon, and I walked back into a building that once threw me out like a used napkin. The old Argon logo had been replaced with a temporary Apex banner. Familiar faces passed me in the hallway, some with awkward nods, others with quiet respect. Leona was gone, most of her team too. What remained was a shell, but it still had bones worth saving. In the main conference room, I addressed the remaining Argon staff. "I'm not here to gloat," I began. "I'm here to build something better, and every one of you still here, if you're willing to do things the right way, you've got a place in this rebuild." Some nodded, some stayed silent, but none walked out. By month's end, we'd already migrated 40% of Argon's core systems onto Apex's framework. Clients noticed. The noise stopped. The headlines changed, and slowly confidence returned. I wasn't just rebuilding a company. I was proving something deeper. That experience matters. That care, craft, and commitment still mean something. That when you throw away the person holding the blueprint, don't be shocked when the house caves in. 6 months after the acquisition, the sign on the front of the building changed again. Gone was the sterile Argon Prime logo. In its place, Apex Integrated Logistics. I stood outside the lobby entrance one crisp autumn morning, watching as the last remnants of my former employer disappeared. Same building, same server room, but a completely different heartbeat. Inside, the energy had changed too. Faces once dulled by burnout now moved with purpose. Systems that used to buckle under pressure were running cleaner than ever. Clients who had walked away in frustration were coming back. Quietly, steadily, confidently. We didn't just migrate Argon's broken infrastructure. We rebuilt it, line by line, department by department. And at the center of it all was the system I'd been dreaming of for 2 decades. Not just fast, not just efficient, durable, human-proof, documented, real. One Friday afternoon, Tom called me into the executive boardroom. I expected a review meeting. Instead, I found a room full of Apex's leadership team and one surprise guest, Jeffrey Stein, the new CEO of Westmont Holdings, the biggest logistics partner on the East Coast. He stood and extended his hand. "Mr. Cole, the man who built the machine." I shook his hand, still unsure what this was about. Tom smiled. Jeffrey's here because he wants more than just stability. He wants innovation, and he wants you leading it." Jeffrey nodded. "We're offering Apex an exclusive logistics contract across all our regional vendors. The only condition, they want your architecture powering the network." I blinked. "That's over 18,000 delivery points." "Yes," he said, "and we trust your systems more than anything we've seen in the industry." The contract was the biggest deal Apex had ever signed. It turned us from a rising star into the regional dominant force. But what moved me more came a few days later. Tom stepped into my office holding a thick binder. "The board just approved the new internal program. You're heading it." I looked at the label on the binder. The Cole Academy, Internal Technical Leadership Development. It wasn't just a department. It was a full-scale division dedicated to mentoring the next generation of engineers, teaching not just code, but the philosophy behind building systems that last. Redundancy, documentation, graceful failure, respect for complexity. "This was your condition," Tom said, "and we're all in." That night I stayed in the office long after sunset. I walked through the old Argonne server room, now humming quietly with the new systems we'd installed. Everything that had been broken, we'd fixed. Everything they said I cost too much to maintain was now the reason clients were fighting to work with us. And in that moment, I realized something. I never needed revenge. What I needed was space. Space to build something the right way. To prove, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with execution. The next day, I cleared out my old integration office, not because I was leaving, but because my new office had my name on the door and a team waiting for me to teach them. As I was locking the cabinet, someone knocked. It was Harvey Baines, one of the junior engineers who'd replaced me at Argonne, back when Leona thought I was too comfortable. "Mr. Cole," he said quietly, "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. We didn't know what we were walking into, and we didn't understand what you had built until it started falling apart." I nodded. "It's all right. Everyone learns somehow." He looked relieved, then hesitated. "Could I join your training program?" That made me smile. "Of course, that's why it's there." A few weeks later, during a panel on systems integrity, someone from the audience asked me what I thought the biggest mistake companies made when managing legacy systems. I thought for a second. "The mistake," I said slowly, "is believing that experience is replaceable just because it's not flashy. That quiet consistency, deep knowledge, and care don't matter anymore. But they do. You don't feel their absence until everything stops working. And by then, it's often too late." I didn't say it with bitterness. Just truth. The kind of truth that only time and failure can teach. A year later, Apex had grown into the largest logistics management firm on the West Coast. The Cole architecture powered over 70% of regional freight distribution, and the Cole Academy had its first graduating class. But for me, success wasn't the victory. It was the quiet, calm moment one evening, walking out to the parking lot, looking up at a building that once fired me, now rebuilt under my leadership. I hadn't gone back to fix their mistake. I'd moved forward and let them follow if they could. That was never revenge. That was just proving what should have been clear all along. When you build something right, it outlasts the people who couldn't see its worth.